Tuesday, November 4th is Election Day. Have you made your plan to vote?
I'm voting, and I'm taking my daughter with me before I drop her off at school. It's really important to vote.
I'm voting on my drive into work to beat the lines. I cannot miss voting.
Thousands of Connecticut voters are making their voice heard loud and clear by voting Tuesday, November 4th. Join them.
I'm voting on my lunch break with the guys from the office. We gotta vote.
I'm picking up my friend on my way home from work. Then we are voting.
Have you made your plan to vote? Are you going with your friends or family? Are you voting in the morning or the evening? Make your plan. Join your friends and neighbors and make your voice heard by voting on Tuesday, November 4th. Visit sots.ct.gov. That's sots.ct.gov to learn where you can vote. Sponsored by Education Reform Now Advocacy.
Here's what Colorado is about. A good place to work and a good place to live. Jobs and the environment. They can go hand in hand with a leader like Governor John Hickenlooper. Just this year, when the state was being torn apart by a divisive debate about oil and gas, John Hickenlooper brought both sides together and passed the strongest air quality rules in the nation, protecting the environment and economic growth. Here in Colorado, John Hickenlooper puts solutions ahead of politics. And that's just how John Hickenlooper handled Colorado's devastating floods, helping victims and repairing our roads and bridges. Isn't that what leadership is supposed to be about? Make the government work for us and find solutions that deliver jobs while protecting our quality of life. That's what we want in Colorado. That's what we have in John Hickenlooper, a leader we can count on. Paid for by Environmental Defense Action Fund IE account, Dan Grossman, registered agent. This communication is not authorized by any candidate.
This is John Delaney. As an entrepreneur, I've created Maryland Jobs. It's never been about what political party someone is in. It's about getting the job done.
We elected John Delaney to Congress just 2 years ago, and we were right to count on him. He's been an independent, pro-job, Western Maryland champion. One good example, John Delaney's infrastructure bill. His approach rebuilds our roads and bridges and creates jobs without a penny of taxpayer money. He's got almost 100 co-sponsors, Democrats and Republicans. That's the Delaney approach. Put people ahead of partisanship. It's why he's fought so hard to help veterans and their families, to combat violence against women, and works across party lines to find a way to protect and strengthen Social Security.
I'm new to Congress, so my approach is built on being independent, bipartisan, and innovative. Look at the facts, put the needs of people first, and work across party lines to get things done for people.
Paid for by friends of John Delaney.
I'm John Delaney, candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
This is Mayor Bill de Blasio. Did you know there's a Democratic primary on Tuesday? Well, let me tell you, you can't afford to sit it out. By electing Kathy Hochul, our next lieutenant governor, we'll keep moving New York State forward. Kathy doesn't back away from a fight when our democratic values are at stake. Kathy Hochul stood up to the Tea Party and blocked a Republican budget that would have gutted Medicare and left our seniors out in the cold. In Congress, Kathy stood with President Obama and refused to let Republicans take affordable health care away from millions of Americans. Now, Kathy Hochul is Governor Cuomo's running mate, and as lieutenant governor, she'll fight for a higher minimum wage, for universal pre-kindergarten, and for common sense background checks for guns. We need a leader who will fight for us. So on Tuesday, September 9th, join me, Mayor Bill de Blasio, and vote for Democrat Kathy Hochul for lieutenant governor.
Paid for by Andrew Cuomo 2014 and Friends for Kathy Hochul.
Aren't you sick of it? The partisan attacks, the gridlock in Congress, extremists making progress impossible. John Delaney is different. Endorsed by the Washington Post for his independence, the Post calls Delaney, quote, one of the most impressive new lawmakers in Congress. They praise Delaney's bipartisan infrastructure plan, which will create jobs without more taxes. And he's working to improve health care for veterans and to combat violence against women. The Washington Post calls his opponent, Tea Party candidate Dan Bongino, a right-wing radio host who will be, quote, a highly partisan and polarizing force in a Congress. Bongino's endorsed by Sarah Palin. He will fight against pay equity legislation for women, against Social Security's guaranteed benefit, against stem cell research, against working across the aisle. John Delaney is different, a family man, fiscally prudent, a problem solver. Delaney's endorsed by the Washington Post as someone who can work with both parties to get things done.
I'm John Delaney, candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by friends of John Delaney.
So you want to be governor of Maryland. Let's look at the resume.
There you go.
You ran Maryland's healthcare exchange website?
Yep, I'll spend nearly $200 million. It's fun.
But it was one of the worst in the country. The Post called it a disaster and a scandal of incompetence.
Nah, look at my website. I call it a model for the nation.
You call the Maryland Health Exchange website that will waste nearly $200 million and has left tens of thousands without healthcare a model for the nation?
It's called pretend governing. It's really fun.
The Post now says you continue to operate largely behind closed doors. The comptroller, Peter Francho, wants any new contracts vetted and reviewed.
Pesky details. I just need $60 million more. Trust me.
You haven't even done your job. Why would you get a promotion?
The people who created the healthcare website mess can't fix it.
This is Attorney General Doug Gansler. As governor, I will deliver on the promise of the Affordable Care Act. That's fair, and that's my fight.
Paid for by Friends of Doug Gansler, Jean McClain, Treasurer.